I was lying in bed when my phone buzzed at 12:04 a.m. I thought it was another spam message, but when I looked, my heart stopped. It was from my boss, Miles Renard. The message said, "Don't come to work tomorrow. Tell no one I warned you." At first I laughed. It had to be a joke, right? I asked him, "Why? What's going on?" A few seconds later, he replied, "Please, just trust me." Something in his words felt off. I'd never heard him sound like that before. I sat up, my chest tight, staring at my phone screen. 10 minutes later, I heard sirens outside. By morning, the FBI had surrounded our office building. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe for more true story-style mysteries like this one. And comment below where you're watching from. My name is Natalie Hayes, and a few months ago, I was living a normal life. I'm 29, a single mom, and I worked as an administrative assistant at a small tech company called Haven Systems in Virginia. My days were predictable. Early mornings, daycare drop-offs, long hours in front of a computer, and late dinners with my son, Daniel. He's 7 years old, the kind of kid who makes you laugh even when you're exhausted. My boss, Miles, was quiet but kind. He wasn't the type to yell or demand. He'd check in, ask how my son was doing, and sometimes bring me coffee when I looked half asleep. He had this calm, collected way about him that made everyone trust him. I never thought he was capable of panic. My best friend at work, Sarah Lopez, was the complete opposite of him. Loud, funny, and always joking. She used to tease me all the time about how loyal I was to the company. If Miles told you to jump off a bridge, you'd probably ask if it should be head first or feet first. She'd laugh. Only if he promised to catch me at the bottom, I'd joke back. Life wasn't easy, but it felt steady. I was proud of keeping things together for my son. We didn't have much, but we had peace. That night, after putting Daniel to bed, I was lying under the glow of my phone, scrolling through messages, when Miles's text came through. "Don't come to work tomorrow. Tell no one I warned you." I stared at it for a full minute, thinking it had to be a mistake. Maybe he meant to send it to someone else? I typed back, "Is everything okay?" No response. A few seconds later, another message popped up. "Please, just trust me." That's when my stomach turned. Miles wasn't the kind of man who sent messages like that. His voice played in my head, calm and sure. Until that moment. I couldn't sleep after that. Every sound outside made me jump. My phone stayed in my hand for hours as I waited for an explanation that never came. I had no idea that by the next morning, my entire life, and everything I thought I knew about my job, would change forever. The next morning, I woke up to a quiet house. The first thing I saw was my phone lying next to me, the screen still showing Miles's last message. "Please, just trust me." For a moment, I wondered if I had dreamed the whole thing, but then I remembered how my heart raced when I read it, and the fear came flooding back. Daniel was still asleep, his small hand resting on his stuffed dinosaur. I made him breakfast like any other morning, but my mind was somewhere else. I kept glancing at my phone, expecting another text from Miles. Nothing came. The silence was worse than the warning itself. I tried to convince myself it was nothing serious. Maybe there was a power outage at the office, or maybe he was warning me about some internal issue. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. Miles wasn't impulsive. He was careful, deliberate. He wouldn't send something like that without a reason. I finally decided to call him. My hands shook as I scrolled to his number and pressed call. The line rang twice before he picked up. His voice was low and strained, like he was trying not to be overheard. "Natalie, listen to me. Please don't go to the office today. Promise me." "Miles, what's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "You're scaring me." There was a pause on the line, and I could hear him breathing heavily. Then he said, "I can't explain right now. Just stay home. Tell no one I called, not even Sarah. Please, Natalie. Promise me." Before I could answer, the call disconnected. I sat there staring at my phone. My chest felt tight, and for the first time, I realized how serious this might be. Miles sounded terrified, and that was something I'd never seen or heard from him before. I wanted to call Sarah right away, but his warning stopped me. Still, I couldn't keep it to myself. She was my best friend. We told each other everything. So I texted her, "Did you get any messages from Miles last night?" She replied almost instantly, "No. Why? What happened?" I hesitated, then just said, "I think something's wrong. Don't go in yet, okay?" Her response came back with a confused emoji, followed by, "Girl, you worry too much. I'm already pulling into the parking lot." My stomach dropped. A few minutes later, she sent a picture message, the view from her car. In it, I saw flashing red and blue lights reflecting off the glass windows of our building. Behind them were black SUVs lined up along the curb. My heart started pounding. Then came her text. "What the hell is going on? There are FBI agents here." I grabbed the remote and turned on the news. The first headline I saw made me freeze. "Federal investigation underway at Haven Systems, Inc." The reporter's voice was calm, almost too calm, as she explained that federal authorities were executing search warrants related to potential data breaches and illegal information transfers. I could hardly process the words. I called Sarah right away. She sounded breathless, panicked. "They're blocking everyone from entering," she said. "They told us to stay in our cars. Agents are walking people out in handcuffs." "Handcuffs? Who?" "I saw Jeff from accounting, and I think they're taking Lila too." "Natalie, what's happening?" Before I could answer, another message flashed on my phone. An unknown number. It read, "Don't answer calls from work. They're tracking everyone connected to internal accounts. Delete my messages." My throat went dry. It had to be Miles. My hands shook as I reread the text. I felt like I was caught in the middle of something I didn't understand, something that could ruin lives. For the rest of the day, I couldn't think straight. I paced around my living room while Daniel built Lego towers on the floor. I kept checking the news, refreshing updates, waiting for Miles's name to appear. By evening, the headlines grew darker. FBI sources confirm possible corporate espionage at Haven Systems. The words sounded unreal, like something out of a movie. But this wasn't fiction. This was my job, my boss, my life. I got one last message before midnight. It was a voice memo, only 3 seconds long. Miles's voice was trembling. He said, "Don't trust anyone, I'm sorry." Then silence. I replayed it over and over, trying to understand what he was caught in. Was he part of it? Or was he trying to protect me? Outside, the night was eerily quiet. I felt like I was being watched, even though I knew that was probably just fear talking. Still, I locked every door, checked on my son, and left the lights on. That was the first night I didn't sleep at all. I didn't know it then, but the real danger hadn't even started yet. I woke up the next morning with the uneasy feeling that something was about to break open. The air outside felt different, thick, still, heavy. My phone was buzzing nonstop with notifications, messages from coworkers, and missed calls from Sarah. Every text had the same question. "What's happening? Do you know anything?" I didn't, but I needed to find out. For hours, I tried to calm myself by staying home, watching the news, and keeping Daniel distracted with cartoons. The television kept repeating the same footage of the FBI outside our building, agents carrying out boxes of computers and files. I could recognize people I'd worked beside every day. Some were crying, others looking straight at the cameras, faces pale and lost. At around 9 a.m., Sarah called again, her voice breaking. "Natalie, they're questioning everyone. They're saying Miles is involved in something big, like espionage or something with defense contracts. They won't let anyone leave." Espionage. The word sounded unreal. Miles? The man who stayed late helping interns fix spreadsheets? I couldn't believe it. My gut told me there was more to the story. I tried calling him again, but his number was disconnected. I sat at the edge of my bed, shaking. Something deep inside me refused to stay. Quiet. I had to see for myself what was going on. I grabbed my keys, kissed Daniel on the forehead, and told him to stay with our neighbor, Mrs. Jensen. She was kind and trusted me, though I could see the worry in her eyes when she noticed my trembling hands. "Are you sure you should go out, honey?" she asked softly. "I just need to see what's happening. I'll be back soon," I said. The drive to the office felt longer than usual. The roads were lined with unmarked black cars and local police cruisers blocking the main street. By the time I turned the last corner, I could see the flashing lights from a distance. The building where I'd worked for 5 years looked completely different now. It wasn't just a workplace. It was a crime scene. I pulled over a few blocks away and got out of the car. Reporters stood behind barricades, shouting questions at agents coming and going. The crowd was a mix of employees, family members, and onlookers. Everyone looked lost. That's when I saw Sarah standing near the front steps, clutching her phone, arguing with someone in a dark jacket. I started to move closer, but then my phone buzzed again. An unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. "Natalie, where are you?" It was Miles. His voice was rushed, desperate. "At the office." "Miles, what's going on? The FBI is everywhere. They're saying—" He cut me off. "Turn around right now. Don't let them see you. They'll question you. They're looking for anyone connected to me." "What are you talking about? Why would they question me?" "Because they think I leaked classified data. But I didn't. Someone set me up and they're cleaning house to cover it. Don't trust anyone from upper management, not even IT. They've been part of it from the start." My throat went dry. "Then why did you text me?" He paused. "Because you don't belong in this. You have a son. You were never supposed to see any of this. Please, Natalie, just go home and forget I ever called you." Then the line went dead. I stood there in the middle of the street, clutching my phone, trying to process everything. Miles wasn't running from guilt. He was running from something bigger. If what he said was true, then the people I'd trusted at work might have been hiding something dark. Across the street, an agent shouted, "Ma'am, please step back behind the tape." I quickly turned and walked back toward my car, my pulse pounding in my ears. From the corner of my eye, I saw Sarah being questioned by 2 agents. She looked at me briefly, her eyes wide, silently asking what was happening. I couldn't answer. I just mouthed, "Go home," before getting into my car. As I drove away, my phone buzzed again. Another text from the same unknown number. "If you're still near the office, leave now. They're tracking all employee phone signals. Trust me, Natalie." I threw the phone onto the passenger seat, my hands gripping the steering wheel. So tightly they hurt. It hit me that Miles might be on the run. And if the FBI believed he'd leaked sensitive information, anyone who'd been close to him, anyone like me, could be next in line for questioning. When I got home, I locked the doors and shut the blinds. My hands were still shaking as I turned on the news again. The story had already evolved. Federal investigators identify Miles Renard as a key suspect in the Haven Systems data breach. His photo filled the screen. The caption underneath read, "Suspect at large." My stomach turned. I knew that image wasn't the full truth. The fear in his voice, the urgency in his words. It didn't sound like guilt. It sounded like someone trying to warn me before something worse happened. I sat on my couch in silence, the house too quiet, my heart too loud. I knew I couldn't tell anyone, not even Sarah, what Miles had said. But one thing was clear. I was already part of whatever this was. And the only choice I had left was whether to stay quiet and hope it passed, or dig deeper and find out what my boss had really been trying to protect me from. That was the moment I decided. I couldn't just walk away. I had to know the truth, even if it meant risking everything. The next few days felt like a blur. Every time I turned on the news, the same image of Miles filled the screen. The quiet, dependable man I'd known for years now labeled as a criminal. The headlines called him a key suspect, a corporate spy, a federal fugitive. Each word made my stomach twist tighter. The FBI claimed he had stolen classified defense software data and sold it to foreign contractors, but that didn't make sense. Miles didn't even like sharing his Netflix password, let alone government secrets. I tried to stay calm for Daniel's sake. He could tell something was wrong. One night, he asked, "Mom, is your work okay? You look sad." I forced a smile and said everything was fine, but inside, I was falling apart. Every knock at the door made me jump. Every car slowing down near the house made my pulse quicken. I felt like I was being watched. Then, 3 days after the raid, something strange happened. When I came home from dropping Daniel at school, there was a small brown envelope sticking out of my mailbox. No return address, no name. My first thought was that it was junk mail, but when I picked it up, it was heavier than it looked. I tore it open on the kitchen counter. Inside was a small silver flash drive and a folded note that said, "You deserve to know the truth." My heart nearly stopped. I knew it was from Miles. I locked the door, closed the curtains, and sat down with my laptop. For a moment, I hesitated, afraid of what I might find. Then I plugged the drive in. It contained dozens of emails, documents, and screenshots, all addressed to government officials, lawyers, and news outlets. The subject lines told the story before I even opened them. Illegal, contracting activity at Haven Systems, evidence of data manipulation, whistleblower submission. Miles hadn't stolen anything. He had been trying to expose the company's crimes. I clicked through one email after another, reading how he had discovered that Haven Systems was secretly modifying software sold to the U.S. government. The altered code allowed third parties, foreign buyers, to access secure data without authorization. It wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. Miles had collected proof, reported it to federal authorities, and waited for them to take action. But instead of investigating, someone inside the company must have tipped off management. They'd turned the story around, painting him as the traitor. I sat frozen in front of the screen, reading his final message at the bottom of the folder. "If you're reading this, I didn't make it far. Don't trust anyone from Haven. Protect yourself and your son. The truth will come out. M." My chest felt heavy, and tears blurred the screen. I had trusted him, and now I knew he had trusted me too. Enough to send this. I knew I couldn't keep it. Holding evidence like this could destroy my life if anyone found out. But deleting it wasn't an option either. I had proof that could clear his name and expose something much bigger than I ever imagined. I thought about calling the FBI directly, but his words echoed in my head. Don't trust anyone from management. I didn't know who was dirty and who wasn't. That night, after putting Daniel to bed, I made my choice. I created an anonymous email account and attached the files. I sent them to 3 major news outlets and 1 government watchdog group with a single message. This is what really happened at Haven Systems. Then I deleted every trace from my computer and the flash drive itself. For a long moment, I just sat there in the dark, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and my own heartbeat. I knew there was no turning back. Whatever happened next would change everything. The following morning, the story exploded. The headlines were everywhere. Whistleblower evidence confirms internal corruption at Haven Systems. New documents suggest cover-up in federal case. FBI reopens investigation. By noon, the news anchors were reporting that Miles Renard had been acting as a federal whistleblower all along. He had sent multiple reports to the Justice Department months before the raid. Internal emails showed that executives at Haven Systems had framed him to protect themselves. Arrest warrants were issued for several top managers, including the company's CEO. I watched it all unfold from my couch, numb and speechless. It felt surreal. The same agency that had stormed our building was now clearing Miles's name. But even as justice began to unfold, one question haunted everyone. Where was Miles? The news said he had vanished after the raid. No one had seen him since. The FBI called him a protected informant and refused to release any details. Deep down, I knew he was alive. The envelope in my mailbox wasn't a goodbye. It was a sign that he trusted me to finish what he started. That night, I went outside for the first time in days. The air was cool, the sky clear. For the first time since that text message at midnight, I felt a strange peace settle over me. Miles hadn't betrayed anyone. He'd risked everything to do the right thing. And in a way, so had I. As I stood on the porch, I whispered into the quiet night, "You were right. I trusted you." The wind picked up softly, brushing against my hair. It almost felt like an answer. I turned off the porch light and went inside, holding on to the hope that wherever Miles was, he finally knew that the truth had come out, and that someone had believed in him after all. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that our story wasn't finished yet. Months passed, but the memory of that week never left me. The raid, the news headlines, and Miles's voice on that last call all stayed with me like shadows that refused to fade. At first, I thought the noise would die down once the truth came out. The media storm had cleared his name, the executives were arrested, and Haven Systems collapsed almost overnight. But peace didn't come as quickly as I hoped. Even after justice was served, my life didn't feel normal again. Every time my phone buzzed late at night, I felt a sharp pulse of fear. Every white SUV on my street made me check twice before relaxing. I knew I wasn't in danger anymore, but the feeling of being watched had settled deep inside me. It took months before I could walk into an office building without my hands trembling. After Haven shut down, I lost my job along with everyone else. The company's name had become poison in our town. People whispered about who knew what and who had been part of it. Even though the FBI cleared Miles, a lot of employees couldn't believe he had been innocent all along. I didn't bother to defend him to anyone. Some things were better kept quiet. I focused on rebuilding my life. I found a job at a small accounting firm nearby. Nothing fancy, just steady work. The manager there, Mrs. Ellis, was kind, and for the first time in a long while, I didn't have to look over my shoulder. I liked the quiet rhythm of the job. Numbers, reports, routines. It gave me something solid to hold on to again. Daniel adjusted faster than I did. He was young enough to forget most of what happened, though sometimes he'd ask, "Mom, is your work nice now? Not scary like before?" I'd smile and nod, even if part of me still woke up at night, hearing Miles's voice in my head, "Don't trust anyone." One afternoon, about 6 months after everything ended, I stopped by the post office after work. My mailbox was stuffed with bills and ads, but tucked between them was a small postcard. No return address, no name. It had a picture of a quiet lake surrounded by pine trees. I flipped it over, and my breath caught. On the back, written in neat, familiar handwriting, were 4 words: "Thank you for trusting me." I stood there for a long time, staring at the postcard. My chest felt tight, but not in fear, in relief. He was alive, somewhere out there, far away from the chaos. Miles had found a way to start over, and he wanted me to know he hadn't forgotten. That night, I placed the postcard inside my bedside drawer, next to Daniel's school photos and an old locket from my mother. I didn't need to tell anyone about it. It was our secret. One last piece of a story that had changed my life forever. In the weeks that followed, I started to feel something I hadn't felt in a long time: peace. I realized that the whole experience had broken something inside me, but it had also built something stronger. I had learned how fragile trust can be, but also how powerful it is when it's real. I'd learned that courage doesn't always look like running into danger. Sometimes it's just holding your ground when everything around you is falling apart. Every once in a while, I still thought about the people from Haven, the ones who betrayed their own country, the ones who stayed silent, and the ones who paid the price for speaking out. I thought about how close I had come to losing everything because of a single text message at midnight. But I also thought about how that message saved me. I started writing about what happened, not in a public way, but in a journal I kept by my bed. I wrote about the fear, the confusion, the guilt, and the relief. I wanted to remember every detail, not to relive the pain, but to remind myself how far I had come. Over time, the nightmares faded. The panic when the phone rang late disappeared. Life slowly stitched itself back together, one quiet day at a time. And though I would never see Miles again, his words stayed with me. "Please trust me." Back then, it sounded like a desperate plea. Now, it felt like a reminder that sometimes trusting someone, even when you don't have all the answers, can change everything. A year later, on a bright spring morning, I took Daniel to a lake for a picnic. The water shimmered under the sun, and for a second, I noticed how much it looked like the one on the postcard. I smiled, feeling a strange sense of closure. "Mom, are you okay?" Daniel asked, holding a sandwich in his hand. "Yeah," I said quietly, watching the water ripple. "I think I finally am." As we sat there by the lake, I realized that the story wasn't about fear anymore. It was about trust, survival, and the quiet courage it takes to keep going after the world shakes you to your core. So if you're listening to my story right now, I want to say this: Sometimes the scariest moments lead you to the strongest version of yourself, and sometimes the people you least expect turn out to be the ones who save you. If you enjoyed this story and want more real, emotional storytelling, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and comment below where you're watching from. Your support helps keep stories like this alive, stories about ordinary people who discover extraordinary strength when life tests them the most.